Welcome to the Align Leader podcast. Our guest today is Celia Gianetti. Celia is a director of talent management at Mitsubishi Chemical Group, where she leads leadership development, succession planning, and performance strategy across the Americas. Born and raised in Brazil, she began her career in global logistics sales before moving into procurement at DuPont, where she managed over $100 million in category spend. During her 13 years at DuPont, she advanced into HR leadership, later moving to Boston Scientific and then into broader global talent roles. Today, Celia is also the founder of Leading Edge Talent Solutions, or LETS, a consulting venture that challenges traditional training by embedding capability, accountability, and performance into the business itself. She is recognized for blending pragmatic strategy with a human lens, shaping leaders who can adapt, decide, and deliver in complex environments. Welcome, Celia. Glad to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, Nick.
Outstanding. I think we're going to have a wonderful discussion. I'd like to jump in and start talking. You had a pivot in your life. You started in sales, you went into procurement, and then you pivoted into talent management, HR, that area. Tell me a little bit about that pivot.
Yeah, of course. So, as you mentioned, I was born and raised in Brazil, and I've learned English from a very young age. So, I knew that when I grew up, I would be working somewhere other than, I'll be a citizen of the world, if you will. And going into global logistics was kind of like a natural fit for me, and I loved it. And I still love logistics. Logistics is agile. You're always as good as your last shipment, and you interact with different cultures, so it's still very, very near and dear to my heart. When I moved to the US, and I thought I got what I thought was my dream job, and it was an excellent role. It was category management. It was really meeting in terms of contract negotiations and understanding dynamics across the company, because you'd be surprised how much people love their logistics providers, and when you go and you need to change them, they become a little bit sensitive, if you will. So that was really a good role for me in terms of just developing business acumen, but also it was very it didn't fulfill me from a engagement interaction standpoint. I like being in front of people. And usually when you're a category manager, you spend a lot of time with your computer and Excel spreadsheets. So this is so when DuPont started to develop the commercial excellence team, it was because of the economic downturn around 2008. And we realized, you see that I still call myself a DuPonter. I grew up there. I'm still very near and dear to my heart. So, anyway, so when DuPont formed the commercial excellence team, it was because of the economic downturn of 2008. And we've realized that we had to upskill our sales, our client-facing professionals. Because before, even though they were very knowledgeable about the product and knowledgeable about the customer, that edge around sales, negotiation skills and pipeline development, that there was a lot of opportunity there. So I sold in the logistics space. I raised my hand and I said, I want to be part of the mission. And that's when everything kind of clicked for me. And it was kind of like a lateral move, if you think about it. So I was a category manager. And I made the move into the sales excellence team as a training coordinator. And somebody would say, "Wow, you took a step back." Well, I think you could say that, but for me, it was something that I wanted to. I was passionate about what they were trying to accomplish. I had the depth in terms of sales, and I knew what brings value, what destroys value, how impactful pipeline or a lack of pipeline can be in your numbers, and it was an intentional choice And when that's when everything clicked for me. That's when I saw that I could make an impact, right? A positive impact to the bottom line. I could help people become the best version of themselves. I've always been very energized by informally coaching individuals and supporting them and kind of giving them that, confidence boost. And I could geek out over some white papers and research papers around, human behavior and so on and so forth. So that's kind of where everything came together for me. And went back to school, got my degree in applied organizational psychology. So I had the business depth, but also that added lens of human behavior knowledge, and I never looked back ever since.
That's very interesting. And you said something there that really clicked, which is you didn't just say, "Hey, I'm going to go into learning and training development." I'm going to become the expert on how do I develop training and how do I teach people how to do skills in business. You actually had the knowledge and expertise in another area, and you have then applied it to training and learning development, which I think is very important because a lot of times people do get siloed into, well, this is what I know, this is what I've done for 40 years, but I really don't know anything. And it reminds me of, sometimes I see people that hold themselves out as, well, I'm an expert leader training. And then you look at their LinkedIn profile or their resume, and it's like, well, they've never had a leadership role. How are they an expert in leadership, right?
Exactly.
So I didn't even think about that, but that was a great point right there where, hey, you had the expertise in sales and procurement. Now let me teach people how to become better sales and procurement folks, which will raise our business up quite a bit. And so you stayed in there, and you even created your own venture, uh,
Yeah.
the leading edge talent solutions. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure, happy to do it. So Leading Edge started as part of the my passion around talent management, leadership development, and because I know that my function, I hope my boss, my leader doesn't hear me right now, but like we're expensive, right? Like a large company like Mitsubishi, they can afford to have an organization like mine. We're very good at what we do, and we do have a lot of experience, and with that comes a certain require resource and financial
Sure.
investment. But not every company has that luxury. And I
Right.
think, as my grandmother used to say, life is too long to be unhappy, and you spend a lot of time at work. So why not be able to offer some of the solutions that I provided within Mitsubishi to smaller sized companies that need a boost in their leadership development, that needs help in not just their talent acquisition process, but really
Right.
helping their leaders understand what good looks like, what is a good interview process, right?
Right.
What beyond what just you can ask this, you cannot ask that. This is could be potentially seen as discriminatory. So it's beyond that. It's really becoming better talent scouts.
Right.
And Leading Edge Talent Solutions does exactly that. We are able to offer packages and really make it talent management more accessible, so that those companies can become more efficient and get better results. It would have been an easy way for me to become another trainer and just do more training. But we're really framework and content agnostic. And what I mean by that is that I don't care, not that I don't care, but like it doesn't really matter what kind of training provider you use.
Yeah.
We come in to help you, your leaders, your HR organization have better discussions with that provider so that you get exactly what you want in a
Right.
consistent basis. Do I
Right.
make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, rather than, yeah, I mean, there's, every day now there are tons of providers of solutions, but how do you assess what the right solution is for your
Exactly.
organization, right? And like I said, I see this. I get marketed to by tons of people, and it's like, okay, well, that's great, but how do you know that I have a problem? I mean, does it look like I have a problem? Because maybe it does. I mean, that's why they're. But also discerning, hey, well, there's a million different solutions. Which solution's actually the appropriate solution for your company? That's a great. I mean, I think that's very important because, like you said, I can go spend a lot of money importing a training and learning development program that is inappropriate for my company. And
It
I
won't
don't,
solve.
how do I know, right? How do I know without someone like you that says, hey, I've done this before. Let me help you with how to make this decision. So I'd love that.
That's exactly right. So we help organizations ask better questions
Yeah.
and really diagnose, right, what the problem, the root cause is,
Right.
and then address it. We don't focus on the symptoms. Like that's really later in our process. If I can share one anecdote with you, one time I was in another company, not Mitsubishi, but one of the big four companies came in and did a whole strategy, and it was beautiful decks and just really nice. They brought Legos to do team building in the morning. Very exciting. And I was new, so I sit in the back and I'm seeing this whole thing. I said, "That's cute. That's nice." And 6 months later, the leader calls me back. He says, "I need help." And what happened? Well, that strategy deck and the strategy journey and all the things, they're not clicking. And I said, okay, can you come in and help us translate that? So this is like an $80,000 engagement, right? But the system wasn't ready for it. So everybody sat in that meeting and they were trying. I mean, they were really trying to make sense of all of this, but it was a state, like it was too advanced. Right now, is it the big four, is it the consulting company's fault, is it the leader's fault? I don't know, right? But the bottom line is that we need to meet the system where the system is at, and we really need to focus on what exactly is the problem that we're solving for, and is that going to give us the biggest bang for our buck?
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, having been in Fortune 500 companies that have training and learning development, what I see is some do it very well, and some, just like you said, they bring something in. They don't really know what their strategy is, and so they're trying to apply a solution that there's no strategy behind. And so the chances of that working are, well, it might work because it just so happens that you fell into the right solution. But one of the things that I like to do is strategy execution. When we know how to develop a strategy, but do
Right.
we know how to execute on that strategy? And sometimes that's the shortfall. It's like we have this great strategy, we have this great mission, values, etc., but they're just words. And if they're just words, then
and that's where I think we become instrumental in, we as in the talent management function, we become instrumental in business, in delivering business results. It's
right,
because to be able to translate that people's strategy, their learning, journey into actual business results. And I'm not even talking about metrics and how do you measure an
right,
ROI. That's
right,
still very important. I think there's still an opportunity for the space itself to find good ways to assess our ROI of learning and development. But being able to translate that, the talent strategy, people and talent strategy into actual, how does that fit into the business strategy,
yeah,
and helping leaders execute, that's our sweet spot. And that's, I think, in my career, when I look back, being in the business, carrying the bag, and understanding P&L, and understanding the decisions that are made by the function, right? A cost center, how that
right,
impacts my profit center and my people. That's where it makes us successful, and that's what I talk. That's my focus with my leaders today. Is that I can come and talk about the 12 steps of leadership development. It sounds nice. But at the end of the day, we need to be very pragmatic. And how can I help you beat the competition at the customer interface? That's what I want to do.
Right. Right. Yeah. Excellent point. Excellent point. Let's switch over and
Yes.
talk a little bit about Mitsubishi Chemical Company. Now, most people know about Mitsubishi Motors. I mean, been around for a long time, but not a whole lot of people know. I mean, I was not familiar with Mitsubishi Chemical before I reached out to you. So tell me a little bit about what your company does.
Yeah, so yes, everybody thinks that we are related to the Mitsubishi Motors. We're not. We came from the same, our origin is the same. So way back in the 1800s, I want to say, that's where the whole Mitsubishi group started. And
Right.
now you have different branches, and we're not related anymore. But Mitsubishi Chemical, we are one of the top 10 chemical companies in the world.
Okay.
We are Japanese owned, so our headquarters is in Tokyo. We are about 55,000 employees strong.
Wow.
The majority of our employee base is in Japan. We have about 4,000 employees in the US, maybe 3,700 in Europe, and about 2,500 to 3,000 in APAC. And we have a very diverse portfolio of, we play in several verticals. So, advanced polymers. We are in the automotive space. We are in semiconductors. We are in biochemicals. We just divested our pharmaceutical arm, which was Mitsubishi Tanabe. But we're a very diverse company, and it's been a very safety focused. So it's been a very good ride for me, and I'm very proud of representing Mitsubishi.
Awesome. And there's a word that is very near and dear to Mitsubishi Chemicals called Kaiteki. Did I say that? Kaiteki. Sorry.
Kaiteki, good job.
So,
Yes.
so tell me that interconnectivity there between Kaiteki and Mitsubishi Chemical.
Yeah, so Kaiteki comes from the Japanese word, means in Japanese, well-being and connection, and wellness. And Kaiteki is, for us, it means caring for the well-being of the people and the planet. So even though we are a chemical manufacturing company, or we play in, we have chemical manufacturing businesses that can be very caustic and very, safety focused. We want to make sure that we are, even though we're manufacturing those harsh chemicals, we are still providing and supporting the well-being of people and planet. And that is in everything that we do, not just saying that we're going to have an extremely efficient recycling process or carbon footprint. That's all very important. That's that's highlighted in our strategy. But we also care for the well-being of our people and the well-being of the people that we interact with, and our clients, and just the planet overall. So it's it's embedded in everything that we do, when we engage with our clients, when we provide, when we build our programs. It's not just about running the numbers. It's not just about the next quarter, but really that more long-term view of the impact that our actions are having on the environment and the people around us.
Yeah, that's really cool, because it's very easy for a company to say, well, this is what we want to do, but then again, they're just words. And when when the rubber meets the road, hey, we've got to get this done, and we don't, it's like
We don't care.
We don't care, right? In the end, we don't care. Or, hey,
Right.
yeah, we'll give some money to this organization that is for that, and that's going to be the whole thing. But when it's ingrained in everything you do,
Mm-hmm.
that's really awesome, because that means, hey, this is important, and we're not going to destroy the environment, even though we're in a, I mean, I did chemical manufacturing, I totally understand what you're saying. And we did the same thing. We were like, hey, we need to be very conscious about everything that we do, because, we use a lot of harsh chemicals, a lot of toxic and caustic
Mm-hmm.
chemicals, but we can also do this where, we're as friendly to the environment as we possibly can be. And we also need to protect our employees. I mean, we did a big uh, uh, project to protect our employees. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't like it because it forced them to do things they didn't want to do. But it was ultimately, hey, this is going to, do you want to die in 5 years, or do you want to retire from this company and live another 30 years or 40 years after you retire? Because we decided that taking care of you, protecting you from these harsh chemicals is more important than just the profits. Right. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
that's really,
We care, if I may add to that. So for us, we care more about like making sure that you can get home at the end of the day, right? Than you showing up for work. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you showing up for work. We want attendance. We want all of those
yeah,
things. Absolutely.
exactly.
But we want to send you back home in one piece without any issues. And that's
Yeah.
our goal.
Yeah,
Ever.
absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, like I said, I love it when a company, really puts their money where their mouth is, rather than, hey, this is just, we used to call it the flavor of the month, the ice cream flavor of the month, right? It's like, oh, this month we're going to do this, but it only goes as far as, I mean, and it was actually in the training realm. We'd go and have training to be all the leaders, and we're like, oh yeah, this all sounds really good, but so how do we adapt that to our processes? Oh, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
This was just information. And it's like, well, you paid me to come here. Why don't we adapt what we actually say we believe in, and let's do it? And
And that's culture, right? So that's what
yeah,
drives culture, right? I read a
absolutely.
research paper the other day that said that most only 3%, only 5% of employees know on average the exact words of your mission and vision statement in any given
Yeah,
company, right?
yep,
But about 95% of them, or 100% of them, know how decisions are made, what behavior gets rewarded, and what behavior gets punished. That's
yeah,
culture. It's not your mission and vision statement.
yeah.
And that was very I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the things that I do with my strategy execution is, alignment. Proper alignment means that, hey, the strategy is not just something that's in the CEO's head. It's something that the lowest person, the janitor knows the strategy of the company, because even the janitor doing a good job is going to impact how the company operates, right? So if people don't know it, and I remember talking to a CEO of a small company, and he said to me, I'm not even sure that we have a strategy. And I'm like, well, you certainly have a strategy. You've been in business for 20
Right.
years, 25 years. You know how to decide what companies you're going to go after and which companies
Right.
you're not going to go after. So you have a strategy. It's just not well articulated, which means if you don't really know the strategy, how are the rest of your people in your organization understanding, well, we should do this and shouldn't do that, right? Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, but you're absolutely right. That does go to culture, because is the strategy, is the mission, are they just words, or are you actually embedding this into everything you do? Every operation gets held up against our mission statement, our strategy, and if it doesn't work, then it shouldn't be part of our organization, right? That's
Yeah.
theory, at least.
Yeah.
Let's move over and talk a little bit about talent management. I mean, I know this is an area that is very important to you. I mean, you've
Yes.
spent a good deal of your life in this, and like I said, you've also have this venture that you're helping other companies in the talent space. So, we before we started this podcast, we talked a little bit about AI,
Yeah.
and you've made some really good points about AI can take you so far, but in the talent space, there's got to be more than just AI. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So I think that AI it can be a great tool. And I think we can become more efficient. We can gain knowledge somewhat faster than through normal venues. But I think AI is also a magnifier in the sense that if you are good at thinking, systems thinking, and critical thinking, and patterns, and putting information together, yes, I think AI is going to be beneficial, right? But if you're not very good at understanding what was coming out of the prompt that you just typed in your computer, and you just regurgitate that, that's
Yep.
going to magnify some skills that you don't want to showcase that much. And I think for us in at Mitsubishi, we're implementing Workday. We're talking to our vendors and how they can build learning journeys through AI based on how our employees are typing, searching for training in our learning system. And all of that is great, right? We really like that. But I think AI can also help us become more, just challenge us in the way we are thinking about problems, and kind of elevating our thinking process as well. But you still need that human element. You still need to have somebody that is able to connect the dots, and knows how to interact with people, knows how to debate in a passionate and respectful way. And that's where we can, we see that's where we're still trying to help our leaders understand and signal when it comes to our talent pipeline, the candidates that come into interviews. Almost anyone can look good on paper today, but how they articulate that's where it makes a difference.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I use AI quite a bit in my business as well. And a lot of times, before a candidate goes to an interview, I will run the position description through an AI prompt and say, hey, give me some legitimate questions. And sometimes it does a really good job. Sometimes it's like, are you kidding me? What is, were you not able to read the position description that I just gave you? Right. And so I do think that AI has there are a lot of areas that AI can help, especially even in talent development. But there's always got to be that human element, and there's always got to be that person that says, "Wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. This is completely, you went off on this. You targeted one little sentence here, and you made this all about this one little sentence, and that's not the essence of what we were looking for at all." And like you said, I can throw a resume through an AI prompt and say, "Hey, spruce it up, make it look good," but that candidate still has to be able to come in and perform. And if they,
100%.
if they just lace their resume with the proper words that are going to make it through an ATS, and I hear this all the time. I don't use, when I look for a candidate, I don't care what my ATS says, right? I'm looking at the resume. I mean, I have a personal touch. I want to look at every resume because I want to talk to this person. And if I discover through my screen with them that, hey, they're not really the right person, I'm going to say, look, I apologize for reaching out to you. Most of the time I reach out. I don't really post job ads anymore.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And sometimes I get it wrong, and I'm like, look, I'm sorry. I thought you were the right person, but I don't think you have the right skills. And I think that when we just use AI, we don't get that. I mean, like I said, I've thrown resumes through my AI agent and said, hey, is this guy a good fit? And they're like, oh, yes, absolutely. This, and that. And I'm like, no, you missed the whole point. Sorry.
Yeah, I think there's still the human element, right? We touched on battle scars. Like AI will not give you battle scars, right? So, and that is what it takes to make the connection with people, to really understand how, someone has not only done progress through their career, but how they evolve throughout that journey. And you have bullets on bullet points on a resume. I think it may sound great, but if you don't have the depth, it just
Yeah.
it shows up pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I also, like I said, I also love our learning and development discussion because I'm a Toastmasters, and
Mhm.
Toastmasters, we have this massive learning development system, and we try to get companies to understand that, hey, if you don't really have a really good, and there's a lot of leader development that we do in Toastmasters, but what we find is when companies bring us in, and I hate to say this is not universal. This is
Right.
uh, just a tiny bit that I've seen is that, yeah, it was like the flavor of the month. It sounded like a good idea. It doesn't cost the company much money, but we're not really going to try to say, hey, you're an associate engineer right now, and someday you want to be a lead. Here, beyond the engineering skills that you need to continue to learn, there's also some leadership skills and management skills that we want you to learn. And here's the guided way to do that. Doesn't mean that it's the only way, but here, if you don't know how to be a leader, then how are you going to learn to become a leader, right? I mean,
Yeah.
someone along the way needs to say, hey, these are the steps that you should take. Doesn't mean that it's the only way, but at least give someone the idea of, hey, this is the way that you get to that position that you want to get to. Because if you don't, then it's like, well, I'm just going to follow the good or bad example of the leader with me right now, and it could be bad, but you don't know it's bad because that's all you know.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you 100%. So, one, I think that leadership development is very near and dear to my heart because I grew up in a small town in Brazil. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the leaders that believed in me, that helped me, that slapped me over the head at one point when I needed and redirected my behavior, right? So that is very much what that's one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about it. I've lived it and I'm a product of good leadership. But I also think that, leaders, usually a business problem is a people problem, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
if you don't have strong leaders, you will not, I mean, you can make whatever, like the nicest gadget ever. At some point, the system's going to break down and things are going to start to decline because you don't have a strong leadership bench and you don't have strong leadership standards. So that's very important to me. The other thing that's important is, and you touched on learning and development, right? Usually people focus on the training event. Oh, I'm gonna go do a leadership training. Okay, and you go to sometimes a nice space, and it's like 1 week, and it's beautiful, amazing meals, and but there's really no requirements before, right? You got to read a book, understand the book, write something about the book. I'm making this up. And post engagement, nothing really happens. What are you going to do differently when Monday comes and work gets in the way, right? You're
Yeah.
going to fall back
Yeah.
into 12 steps that we talked all week, or you're just going to do what you do, which is the carrot and the stick approach. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think holding the learners accountable for the journey, right? Helping them with the journey, but holding them accountable for the whole journey, I think is very important. What we did at Mitsubishi, and we have been very successful, is that we've implemented an IDP, which is an individual development plan workshop, and really we message to the organization that we as a corporation, we will enable your growth, we'll provide you with content, we'll give you the opportunity, but you own it. And the way you own it is by really deciding where you want to go, where you want to go, what do you need to learn, and what does that journey looks like for you. And you have to be company agnostic, and you got to be position agnostic, like what works for you, right? If you told me 25 years ago that I would be a talent management director today, I would have probably laughed at you, because I was in logistics and I was going to do logistics my whole life, right? I was going to travel the world and work in air freight. So you got to be able to look at the journey. But I knew, right? I knew that I wanted to work with people. I wanted to work in the global space. I wanted to work in an agile environment. So I knew that. And then that's like, if I look back, that's kind of, that has been the journey. So I think it's important to tell the employees that, like, that they own their development. It's not going to happen to them. They need to make it happen. And the company, on the other hand, needs to provide the initiative, but also make sure that we are holding leaders accountable for the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you don't have buy-in from the employee and buy-in from the company, then, like I said, it sounds like, it's the flavor of the week. Yeah. It's like, oh, that was cool. I got to go to, like you said, I got to go to a neat place and have great meals, and, and it was inspiring. But then Monday morning comes, and, problems show up at your door, and you revert back to who you were the week before you went to that training. And, I love that, you talked about pre and post training as well. I mean, something in the Army that is ingrained is, we don't, when we go to a briefing, which a lot of companies call training, we call it a briefing. I'm not actually teaching you anything, because for us, it's skills. So I'm going to test you beforehand to see if you have the skill, or if you have this, the skill well enough. And then they're going to train you on how to do this correctly. And then I'm going to test you to see if you learned anything. And I think a lot of times we lose that, because that process does not exist. It's just, hey, you need to go to this training, and it's really just a briefing.
It is. It really is. It really is. And that's why, I say, not all the time, but I will say, look, training doesn't work, right? At least it doesn't work all the time. And my team, we are always focusing on leading to training, but we don't lead with. We are not a training organization. I have great facilitators in my team, and we do training, but we don't lead with that, with training. We really focus on what is the system, meaning the organizational system, what is the symptom, and where is that coming from, and how do we address it, so we can really focus on the root cause. Training is not the solution. And the reason why I say that is because earlier in my career, I got to travel the world, right? So people would pay, the company would pay me to go to Japan and just train people. It was amazing. I was, 29, 30 years old. That was awesome. Yeah. But it became very clear when the VPs will come back and say, hey, you're doing all this training, but it's not showing up in my bottom line. Can you help me understand? And those are not fun conversations to have, right? So I had to pivot and we adjusted, but you can't just focus on that. You really need to focus holistically on people development.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, see, it's been a pleasant conversation. We've covered a lot of ground. What words would you lead with our audience that, if you could say, hey, this is what you need to do, what would those words be?
I think you need to keep it simple, really focus on being pragmatic. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of experts now. And look, I don't want to discredit anybody, but I will look at the receipts and keep it simple, and just make sure that you're connecting with people, and just always assume goodwill. Like we talked before we started, right? Things always work out, and assume goodwill, and there's just cut through the noise. Keep it simple.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Celia. For those of you watching this podcast, I hope you've received some pearls of wisdom, and I hope you will join me for my next podcast coming soon, Remember, aligned leaders are superpowers in great companies, strengthening the bonds of the company's strategic goals with a better informed and better led employee base.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.